Have you ever had a moment where you were just one step away from giving up? That one day where everything felt like it was crashing down and quitting seemed like the only logical option? I want to tell you a story about a day like that. A day that, looking back, became the single most important turning point in a young man's life. Let's call him Alex. Alex was a musician, and his entire life revolved around his guitar. From the moment he woke up to the late hours of the night, he was either writing songs, practicing chords, or dreaming of playing on a big stage. He poured every penny he had into his music, buying gear, renting studio time, and playing gigs in small, often empty, bars. For years, he believed in his dream with a fiery passion that burned brighter than any stage light he imagined. But passion doesn't pay the bills. The rejection letters piled up. Record labels said his music was not commercially viable. Booking agents said he didn't have a following. His friends, who had once been his biggest cheerleaders, started asking when he was going to get a real job. His parents, though supportive, had a worried look in their eyes that he couldn't ignore. The constant grind, the financial strain, and the deafening silence from the industry were starting to take their toll. Then came the day. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday. Alex had a big audition, a final callback for a spot as a lead guitarist in a touring band. This wasn't just any gig, it was the one that could change everything. He had spent weeks preparing, practicing until his fingers were raw and his mind was a blur of notes and rhythms. He sold his favorite vintage amplifier, a piece of gear he swore he'd never part with, just to afford the train ticket to the city. He arrived at the audition, drenched and shivering, his guitar case clutched tightly in his hand. The waiting room was filled with other guitarists, all looking cool, confident, and impossibly talented. His own confidence, already fragile, began to crumble. When his name was finally called, he walked into the room, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He plugged in, took a deep breath, and started to play. But something was wrong. His fingers felt like clumsy sausages. The notes that usually flowed so effortlessly came out stiff and awkward. He fumbled a chord progression he could play in his sleep. The faces of the band members in front of him went from neutral to unimpressed. He could feel the opportunity slipping through his fingers like sand. He stopped mid-song. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. "Thanks for coming in," one of them said, not unkindly, but with a finality that shattered what was left of his hope. "We'll be in touch." He knew what that meant. The train ride home was a blur of rain-streaked windows and self-loathing. Every doubt he'd ever had screamed in his head. "You're not good enough. You were foolish to think you could make it." Everyone was right. He got back to his tiny apartment, the place where he had written hundreds of songs filled with hope and ambition. He looked at his guitar, not with love but with resentment. It felt like a symbol of his failure. That was it. He decided he was done. Done with the struggle, the poverty, the constant feeling of not being good enough. He picked up his guitar, the same one that had been his companion for over a decade, and walked towards the pawn shop down the street. The rain had stopped, but the world still looked gray and bleak. He stood outside the shop, the neon cash for gold sign reflecting in a puddle at his feet. This was the moment. He could walk in, sell his guitar, and it would all be over. He could get a normal job, live a normal life, and forget this painful, foolish dream. His hand was on the doorknob. He could feel the cold metal against his palm. He closed his eyes, ready to take that final step. And then something happened. A sound cut through the city noise. It was a simple melody being played by a street musician on a battered old saxophone a few feet away. The tune was simple, a little sad, but it was played with so much soul, so much feeling. The man playing it had his eyes closed, lost in his own world, creating beauty for anyone who cared to listen, whether they paid him or not. Alex watched him. He saw the worn-out case at the musician's feet, with only a few coins inside. He saw the passion in the man's face, the pure, unadulterated love for the music itself, detached from any outcome of fame or fortune. And in that moment, Alex understood. He had been so focused on the destination, the record deal, the big stage, that he had forgotten why he started the journey in the first place. He had forgotten the simple joy of creating music, the love for the sound, the feel of the strings under his fingers, the magic of turning silence into a song. The audition wasn't the failure. His attitude was. He had let the pursuit of validation poison the one thing he truly loved. Slowly, he took his hand off the doorknob. He turned away from the pawn shop and looked at his own guitar case. He saw not a symbol of failure, but a vessel of possibility, a friend. He walked over to the saxophonist and dropped the last few dollars he had into the Man S case. The musician opened his eyes, nodded a silent thank you, and kept playing. Alex walked home, but this time his steps were different. They were lighter. The world didn't seem so gray anymore. He got back to his apartment, took out his guitar, and just played. Not for an audition, not for a record label, not for anyone else. He played for himself. He played because he loved it. He played until the sun came up, and for the first time in a long time, he felt truly happy. That day, the day he almost quit, was the day he was reborn as an artist. He didn't magically get a record deal the next morning, but his perspective had shifted entirely. He started writing music that was more honest, more raw, more him. He started playing on the street, just like the saxophonist, sharing his music for the pure joy of it. People started to notice. A small crowd became a bigger crowd. A local blogger wrote about him. A small indie label owner heard him play in a park and offered him a deal. The path wasn't easy, but it was his. That one moment of near surrender, that turning point outside a pawn shop, taught him the most valuable lesson of all. Success isn't about reaching a destination. It's about loving the journey, especially when it's hard. It's about remembering why you started and holding on to that love, that pure, simple joy, with everything you've got. So if you ever find yourself standing at your own version of that pawn shop door, about to give up on what you love, take a deep breath. Look for that spark, that reason why you started. It might just be the thing that turns everything around. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more. See you next time.